About the ramp.
And how long have we had it now? Early 90s?
I think it's almost 30 years old, 28 to 30 years old.
In the 90s, right? We got it?
I think so.
90.
Yeah, that
Oh, we nice.
holds up well against the salt.
Wasn't it built?
Yeah, it holds. You're right, Jim. You're right. It does hold up well against the salt, but
Oh, I know it's a thick gauge and so forth. I have no idea. That's why I just asked the question of how many breaks, cracks, whatever. You know.
The only things I'd like to see changed or added is in the one for the whalers and the one for the pilings to include disposal of the old ones.
Okay.
Because right now we have to put on, take off,
Right.
the labor, but the one's responsible for the business. Just throw it away.
Did they manage Mike to take the whalers up out of there with the forklift?
no, the whalers they didn't take up because one whole section of whaler is gone, down the channel.
Yeah.
The other section, which is attached to the last large piling, is wedged down at the bottom. Nothing's moving, and our concern was the pilings that were loose at the bottom, which were prone to the strength of the current, the outgoing tide, was swinging everything over, and we were afraid that the top whalers would be damaged as a result. That's why they were removed. Those were taken out without a problem. I went down on the whalers, the lower whalers, at the last low draining tide that we had.
To the outside?
To the outside, climbed down the ladder, I walked around the outside and, to see what that looks like, because it's really the only time you can visually inspect it.
Yeah.
And there is some other pilings that are loose at the bottom. Their attachment points, which were a bar stock bent in a hoop with angle iron welded on the ends, providing a place for lags to attach to the whaler. You can imagine what it looks like. And whereas it is holding together, and that entire system is built as a fender for the boats, so they don't mash into the steel pipes. It's held up great, but now it's time to replace it. So I walked around, as I said, I think the lower whalers are not in bad shape because I booted on them, and it's not like you can grab a hunk of rotten wood and pull it off. That was the old-fashioned creosote.
The only thing you have to worry about is like when a 50-foot boat is in there, the tide's against you.
Do it all,
the guy on the stern or something, he throws a line around one of them, right?
Right.
He ties that off. When that boat fetches up on that, you've got some serious strain on something, right? So if there's any...
Now, what I've asked John to find out is when the pier was built and the top whaler was installed, there must have been a rating of the life of that big 12x12, that the large threaded fasteners attach it to the pier. If the half-life of it is past, then now's the time, before we go and hang new pilings off the side, to replace that as well. So even though it seems very sound,
if we're going to have it all tore apart, there's no better time to replace it.
Well, that's what but I just wanted to know that. I wanted to have that piece of information.
And the commercial has been there longer than the float system was there.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's all we've been talking about, is the commercial pier.
Right.
So I don't know what was specified when that was built, and it appears to me that the girt whalers at the top and the bottom are the same size, so it's probably the same material, a very heavily creosoted stock. How long would that last? So if it's over its half lifespan, then we should consider doubling our order on the whalers.
I mean, the other thing too is, we could put the ad out, select a contractor, and then if there's any additional work, we could elect to work with that contractor to make sure that everything that needs to be done is done.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, sounds good.
So this way here, we get everybody bidding on the same project, select a contractor on the same specs, but going into the project, the scope may change.
Right.
And is the lift been fixed?
Well, the lift is operational.
Good.
Yep.
Good. The lift is up there.
And that's on the agenda for tonight.
Oh, good.
Right.
No.
All right.
So I would like to be able to go forward with
Yeah.
this.
I'll just add disposal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disposal.
So what is the board's pleasure on this? Do you have a consensus to go forward? Somebody make a motion.
I make a motion that we go forward with the commercial here.
Okay.
Request for bids. Yeah, second is motion.
All in favor?
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Next,
At
on the agenda.
At previous selectmen's meeting, we talked about a resolution, from the Maine People's Alliance. Got an email from Sarah. She wanted to know, talk about going forward with this resolution. So I said, well, I'll put it on the agenda and see what the board would like to do with it. Sarah?
Would you please remind us what the gist of the resolution is?
This is a resolution to express the town's concern on the proposed budget cuts, and how it will affect our community. We talked in our previous meeting and thought it might be a good idea to add some local information. I could add some of our demographics, our health indicators, bring that back, or email it and then make a approval for next meeting.
If it's okay with you.
I could send it to you.
Right, if it's okay with you, can I read the sample resolution so people know what this is about?
Go for it.
Good. All right.
Describe what a resolution is to them first, so they know.
I knew you were going to ask me a trick.
Hey, man. Oh, no, that's
I want to just read it, okay? They'll figure out that part. Whereas the governor's unprecedented biennial budget proposal places towns in an untenable and uncertain fiscal position during their budget planning, and whereas the proposal includes the elimination of $283 million in municipal revenue sharing, falls $200 million short of funding local schools at the 55% passed in referendum, would cut the state's reimbursement for general assistance by an estimated $6.7 million, would eliminate the homestead exemption for anyone under the age of 65, would eliminate the circuit breaker property tax and rent relief program for anyone under the age of 65, would take $8 million in truck excise tax revenue from towns, and would create a corporate tax exemption for large amounts of currently taxable property, resulting in significant losses of local tax revenue. And whereas the governor's proposal also contains cuts to health and human services, such as prescription drugs for the elderly and disabled, to all funding for clean elections, to the wages and benefits for public workers, while also rejecting federal funds to make health care affordable for over 44,000 Mainers. And whereas all of the above shifts costs to towns, whose only major means of raising revenues is property taxes, be it resolved, Lubec calls upon the Maine legislature to reject these proposals, identify less harmful cost savings, and raise revenue in an equitable fashion to avoid this regressive tax shift.
I think the proposed budget would cut about 170.
153 from the municipality.
First year.
The first year, 159 the second, plus additional amounts from the school. And I mean, that all falls in the same tax base.
And I pointed out to this board, and in conversations with our tax assessor, that our unique burden is the 20% of our land mass that's under one form of land conservation or land trust,
Oh, yeah.
which also hurts that, and the school.
Yes.
So that was my suggestion last time. If we wanted to use this as a basis, we need to put the Lubec stamp on it. This is our situation. They may not be aware of it, although I kind of think they are.
That's never hurts to give them
And
another
it never hurts to
explanation.
remind them.
That's right.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
So where are we going to go from here, Sarah?
I'll make some additions if anybody has anything they'd like added.
Pretty good.
Email, call.
I would suggest talking to Jim Clark, our tax assessor.
And just have us a copy like a day or so ahead of our next meeting, and that way we can vote on it on our next meeting. And we can get one of those huge cards and send it in mail. Like the checks that you get from the Publishers Clearinghouse,
Yeah, I like
right
that.
on the front of the doorstep.
Yeah.
That's why they know it's ours.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it big.
The real deal.
If I can afford a truck and paint it on the side, I'll do that.
Yeah.
All right. New
Thank you,
business.
sir.
New
Taking that
business.
on. Appreciate it.
We received notice from the Washington County, the tax commitment for the upcoming year. Last year, our tax commitment for the county was $228,000. We were informed that this year, the tax commitment for the county is $251,783.
So what'd you say it was last year?
228. I doubt it was even, but,
No, there was some change. I don't have the.
okay, close enough. So what does this represent, like a,
The increase in taxes.
I know.
Yeah.
One in every crowd.
It's about 23,000. It's about 10%.
10% increase. Well,
I really wish we could just
Siri,
not
are
pay
you
it.
our rep to this?
And a large, amount is for health insurance and the things that just go up every year. As far as new items, there wasn't given out any,
All right.
new things, so
So you're satisfied that they did their best to keep it?
I would have increased it. There were things I felt that the county should be taking care of now before it becomes a bigger issue. And to have money in the budget for that instead of waiting.
Maybe next year.
I remember when election years and things also affect that committee.
I may not have been the best rep in your reviews.
That can be changed.
It can.
But you gotta admit, that's quite a learning experience. I mean, to give an idea just how the county's run.
She's up to 2 years.
I've
I
been
have
done
2
that.
more years, yes. But that can
great.
always be changed.
It's a great committee. Well, if you leave, then they can't fill it, I don't believe, until the 3 years are up, so we lose one person off.
No,
yeah.
no.
We're behind you 100%, Sarah.
That's right,
Yep,
Sarah.
thank
you,
you,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Good job.
Thank you.
We'll give you that, yeah. Appreciate it.
All right.
I've been involved in those meetings where it's turned into screaming matches. over there.
So do I have a motion that we sign?
Yes.
When's the last possible date we can pay it?
Oh,
September
does this
1st,
every year.
2013.
I make a motion we pay it on August 31st, or the last business day of August.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Well,
it does.
typically what Randy
Okay, no.
does is he will hold off until it's absolutely necessary.
Would he hold off as long as Justin wants?
I don't know if it's gonna crisscross the mail, or
Can
he's
we-
got it pretty well down to a science.
can we roll that in a high interest somewhere for us to tell people? No, maybe not.
Betty, do you know when that date is that Randy usually,
When's the next
is it
warrant?
commensurate with Justin's
Our
motion?
annual meeting would be the beginning of August.
Yeah.
Right. When's the,
So selectmen's meeting for August would be the 1st, the 15th, and the 29th.
alright, I make a motion we pay that on the warrants of the August 15th meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I second it, because she would.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Sarah, for
None
being
being
represented.
heard? All in favor?
Still wanna do this every year, the day they took our early payment benefit away.
Everything has its price, right? All right.
Okay. Craig Alston is here, and he wants to talk to the selectmen about an easement that he's working on for a local property owner.
Yes.
So I will let him.
Have a big seat back up that front of you, Mr. Walton, I know that fits you well.
I don't know if it's that wide or not.
It's funky after a while. Body goes numb.
I've got this in the selectmen's
Oh,
packet.
he's a.
Good.
Did you highlight him?
He's got a better one. I like this one.
No.
I like the highlighting map.
So,
I only highlighted it so you'd see the properties.
Yep, yep.
yes.
What we'd like to request is two things, actually. We're coming from Eureka Street across the current landowner's property to lot 131. There's an easement, and we'd like to have permission to go across the sewer easement that belongs to the town. It should not affect the sewer easement at all, but
Well, an easement, is that the same, Mr. Walston, as a right-of-way to drive a vehicle?
it's an easement to build a driveway or road, yes.
Okay, so that, on the sewer side of things is approximately 20 feet. The easement on a sewer line would be about 20 feet.